Okay, it's 4:02. We're going to go ahead and start our monthly meeting. Just want to go through our list of appointees and guests, and just to verify our attendance record, I'm Nancy Hines, the Chief Recovery Officer for the Sto-Rox School District. Beside me here in this public venue is Mrs. Sonia Coleman. She's the Superintendent of the school district. We have Ms. Heather Johnston as our Principal Representative, Mr. Scott Reed from the Business Office. From the IU, we have Leanna Lawson. You will see on your agenda that there is the reference to Katie Stenger as well. Leanna, we understand, is going to be retiring here in a few months, and Katie will be resuming or serving as a representative from the IU as well. So, Leanna, we're glad you could join us today. I do not see any board members present with us. Just let me double check that. Charter School Rep Dr. Melissa Garvin, do not see as well. Special Education Advocate, Ms. Jessica Taylor, I do not see logged in. As we know, our Superintendent Representative from a neighboring district, Dr. Caroline Johns, is definitely tuned in, and she is communicating and collaborating regularly with Mrs. Coleman. However, she has an ongoing schedule conflict, so she's not able to join us in person, but she does continue to read all related emails, memos, documents, and what have you. We have two residents, I'm thankful for that, appointed. However, I do not see either of them with us today. The standing resident member is Ms. Tina Nagel. She has joined us in the past, but not with us today. And Ms. Tyra Grant has been vetted by the IU after having expressed interest in being that second resident appointee. I did see her here in the hallway at the school district yesterday. She thought that she would be available to join us, but we do not see her yet at this point. We also have the teacher representative for the district, Ms. Maria Kotek. Our additional ongoing support, which we are very thankful for, Martha Hoover. She is joining us today and helping to lead the meeting. And guests from our PDE assigned technical support team, we have representing PFM, Stephen Ramirez. And I do not see a representative from Wessel and Company. Again, also technical support providers paid for by the Pennsylvania Department of Education. Did I miss anyone? Okay, are there any community members or listeners who want to identify themselves as a guest today? Okay, I'm going to continue with our agenda. So topics revisited: the Supporting America's School Infrastructure Grant Program, SASI. Nothing new or different. We continue to carry over this agenda item monthly. I think members of the admin team here are anxiously awaiting the visit by the engineering team. It has been pushed back because of the Harrisburg budget impasse from last year. Hopefully we won't have that same issue this year and it won't get pushed out further. No new updates have been received since November 24th. And just as a reminder, the district is going to ask that engineering team to focus on the junior senior high school. And it depends where the district is in terms of the long list of capital projects when the engineering team arrives as to what they'll actually weigh in and give feedback for. We just absolutely cannot wait at the district any longer for them to take a lead role. Any questions on that item? Okay, we've talked in the past as well about the Public School Facility Improvement Grant. Last year, the district was awarded $1.75 million to put towards designated specific capital improvement projects, most of which came from the May 2024 capital improvement plan that the researchers, the analysts from PFM, including Stephen and also his companion Hannah, they put that together for the district, and it prioritized what the known capital repairs projects were at that point, again, May 2024, and also estimated costs. Certainly, it hasn't been that long, but prices have changed. We know that. And we also know, for example, the plumbing project, extensive plumbing repairs were not anticipated in that particular report. There was an opportunity to apply for a new round of grant funds, and Mrs. Coleman did submit the application on behalf of the district prior to the March 13th deadline. The district has asked for $4.5 million to help fund specific capital projects, similar to what the district did last year. And again, last year was awarded 1.75. There's not really any way to know what the likelihood is of the district being funded fully in part and what have you. I think that the application is competitive. The district forwarded a lot of photos that were pretty graphic and showed the extent of need here in the district. We do expect that perhaps September or October that DCED will let districts know whether or not they've been awarded funds. Their IRS debt from March 2022, this was not budgeted. Of course, quarterly payments have to be made, and those are budgeted. However, when penalties and interest is assigned, then that's totally unbudgeted and unanticipated on behalf of the district. The solicitor is involved. The board is authorizing immediate payments so that the penalties and interest will be capped, but that was a very unfortunate surprise for the district. Is there anybody present with us today who wants to make any remarks about anything that I've said or anything new that would be considered under old business? Okay, so I'm going to move on to new business for consideration. IRS, another surprise, another obligation. 2 quarterly payments were missed by the district in 2023, and 1 from 2025 was missed. The total amount due, because these are relatively new missed payments, $13,903.15. Again, penalties and interest that are part of that are not budgeted, were not budgeted. The administration will be seeking board approval to pay that as soon as possible as well, so that the penalties and interest can be capped, and the solicitor is involved with review of that and how that happened. So in accordance with Act 47 in Pennsylvania, which we would kind of refer to as cyber charter reform, there was a new guideline issued to cyber charter schools, and by March 11th, they were to forward to districts a completed form that includes a parent or legal guardian signature for each child attending the cyber charter program, along with backup documentation to prove that the child actually resides within the school district. Those forms were due in the companion documents to each district. This is not specific to Sto-Rox, all districts across the Commonwealth by March 11th. The solicitor was very much involved with that. And unfortunately, out of the 10 cyber charter schools that enroll Sto-Rox school district students, only 2 initially responded with the completed form, included the signed, the signature from the parent or the legal guardian, and then the companion documents proving residency. As a result, the district did alert PDE the names of the other 8 schools of that group of 10 that did not comply, along with 108 students that are attending those other 8 schools. So since that has occurred, the business office did notify the districts that did not cooperate, did not meet the compliance guideline, that they would be withholding payment. And as you can imagine, now some of those documents are rolling in, and so the business office will continue to monitor that, and they're not going to be releasing payment to cyber charter schools unless that documentation is on file. All right, so under new business, that's all that I have. Is there anything that anyone would like to comment about what I just said or add to the conversation discussion? Okay, so in lieu of a formal presentation this month, as I mentioned last month, I think we need to kind of stop and think about finance, think about financial recovery. And I want to have a conversation here today. I'm going to ask that Mrs. Coleman lead the first part of it and that Scott Reed from the business office lead the second part of it. And to be honest with you, what prompted this is a few months ago, I'll say it that way, and I'm going to be very generic because I'm not trying to vilify anyone, but part of a community event, I'll say it that way. I was in attendance. Some of the administrators here, including Mrs. Coleman, were in attendance, and somebody from the community approached, initially talking to me, but then Mrs. Coleman was nearby, heard what the conversation was about, and she came over and joined it, so she can verify the validity of what I'm going to say here. But the individual said, well, you know, I really don't understand what's the big deal about wanting to exit financial recovery. And yes, you're talking about it, you're talking about the criteria, but really there's a lot of perks, there's a lot of benefits for the district. So why would we want to do that? And to be honest with you, I was really shocked at the comment. And if you recall, I was a superintendent in a district for several years that was in financial recovery as well. We had our chief recovery officer, and the district did exit, is in monitoring now shortly after I retired. But, you know, I've never heard that before, where someone would maybe view it as a good thing to be in financial recovery. And if you go back to the legislation, Act 141 from 2012, 9 districts, that's all across the Commonwealth out of 500, only 9 can be assigned financial recovery at the same time. So there's all these extra resources that go into that. So I suspect that that's one of the reasons the number is capped at 9. As we started the meeting, it talked about, you know, PFM, Stephen and Hannah, how they support the district, at least weekly meetings with Sonia, myself, other meetings with Zach here from Buildings and Grounds, meetings with Scott, specific to budget development. So there's resources there being spent. Wessel and Company being spent as well. And then the district has been afforded $2 million annually for several years in the form of an empowerment grant. There's no expectation that that has to be paid back. So I guess, you know, this individual kind of put that all together and said, well, those are great things. There's extra manpower, you're getting extra money, you don't have to pay it back. I don't think is bad, and I'm, you know, doesn't feel motivated to want to push to exit from financial recovery. So I'm going to ask Sonia to kind of share some extra thoughts about that. And please, if you would, weigh in, you know, what are your thoughts about that?
I think, you know, one of our, hopefully the camera shifts. I think you guys can probably only see my hand, so I apologize. But, you know, in listening to this conversation and having others after that with the individual, I said, it's like a conservator. Like, do you really want someone over you telling you how to move and move the district forward? While in the beginning, those supports may have been needed, but we should be able to sustain the work we're doing without oversight. And that is what we're going to. The oversight, while people may look at the supports as a positive, the supports are there for any district. But for us, it's almost as if, I don't want to say it's forced on us, because I believe in looking at how can you look at something provided to you as a positive, but it also means we can't manage the district. I don't understand how you could look at that any differently when you're in recovery. Like, the label of recovery says that something is ill. When you have an injury, you're in recovery. That means you have to heal. Who wants to spend multiple years healing from something? We want to heal. We want to move forward and go. Now I know maybe if my injury was from, and I'm going to use myself, I hurt myself doing box jumps. I'm a little bit too old to be doing them anymore, and tore a muscle that I didn't even know you could tear. Well, now that I'm recovered, I'm not going to go back and do box jumps again, because I learned my lesson. And there are other things that can be done to ensure that we are always putting the district first and ensuring that our spending is smart, is student facing, and it provides supports to everyone in the district, from students to staff on up to the community. And financial recovery, having that label, anything that we do, even though it's student facing, people will always think, well, you guys can't manage yourselves. And I don't know about anyone else. I don't want someone telling me or telling us as a district, oh no, we need to send people in to help you. And so, you know, that was my conversation with the individual. And he said, oh, I guess I just never thought about it in that way. So I'm gonna leave it there, because the conversation went on after that. But I think it's important for folks to understand, like, recovery, while it happens, you learn from it, but it's to teach. You know, the point of this is to teach us how to do better. And that's what we want to make sure of.
Thank you. I appreciate your remarks. Anybody else want to chime in on that?
I think those were great examples. That just thinking about what the word recovery means and using that to really speak to the experience that you're in and why you don't want to be in the experience forever. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anybody else? One of the things that comes to mind for me, just being somewhat familiar with the model, certainly as a recovery officer now, but in my former position before I retired, being a superintendent in financial recovery, when you think about the individuals who are assigned to support, you know, PFM's analytical team, their research team, Stephen and Hannah, they certainly are not near retirement that I can tell, but it would seem that recovery officer positions and receiver positions generally are offered to individuals who have retired or are close to retirement, and perhaps, you know, they accept the offer and then they subsequently retire. And I think about that, that's kind of by design, I would imagine. I mean, these are just my thoughts. This is not meant to be a career. A receiver position or a chief recovery officer position is not meant to be a career. To Sonia's point, you know, come in, help promote healing, put together the plan, make sure there's fidelity with regard to implementation of the plan, and then to pull away and allow the district to have its independence restored. And I think there truly is a matter of pride connected with this. You know, I've said my story about having a recovery officer assigned, and I just was so hurt. I was so offended. What do you mean you don't think I can do this? And so I think for people who are high achievers, people who are really motivated to do the work, I think there is a sting associated with it. So you want to move through it as quickly as possible. But I also think about Sonia's point that you don't want to go back and you know, pick up those bad habits, display those bad habits again that put the district in financial recovery. And I think, you know, the turnover that Sto-Rox has seen here over the past couple of years, I think that that's pretty common in districts in financial recovery. You know, it contributes when there's leaders moving, you stop and start, reform efforts, initiatives, but then also people who are not really equipped, let's say, to handle some of the tough decisions that have to be made, that those individuals will move on when the going gets tough. Stephen, in particular, you work with other districts that are assigned financial recovery. Is that your sense too?
I think the sense of improvement is one thing that I think ultimately becomes the piece of change that matters most in shifting the district's let's call it internal culture, and trying to embed that with good practice. My background, my experience, my team's experience, our collective company's experience is really drawing from a lot of different best practices from different cities, from different states, and what we're able to really kind of bring is that bigger picture. And there's so many positive practices that can be taken from that and applied to, in this case, Sto-Rox or any district for that matter. And that's what we're trying to do. And I think, and I hope that we're doing that. But we also understand that it takes time because it's not just the nature of this work that we do with the financial recovery districts is not that we come in for discrete, very specific tasks. We oftentimes are really coming in to join the team, I would say. And I feel very invested in Sto-Rox and Sto-Rox community schools. And I've spent a lot of time and energy and effort thinking about what's going on, and I hope to see so much improvement because I feel invested, and I hope that comes out in the work that we support the district with. So I hope so.
Let me ask you, Stephen, you know, you've been involved, Hannah's been involved, I know, a little bit longer with this particular district. Are you comfortable just kind of commenting just what you've seen in terms of growth? And this is just, you know, your personal assessment. You don't have to back it up with any particular data, but I think it might be interesting to the group for them to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, so I started working at Sto-Rox in May of 24, so almost approaching 2 years ago. And at the time, I think Meg was still the superintendent at the time, and we had Pat O'Neill. He was the CRO, and since then, that was two leadership generations ago. And you know, I'll just say that those folks were really great and trying their best, but they were really, I think, still dealing with a number of bad practices that had that 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 were, I don't know, outcomes or outputs from the district's kind of more challenging position. And there's, I think, been a revitalized, let's call it new wave of opportunity. And I think it's supported by both momentum coming out of ESSER, really an increasing amount of internal capacity and being able to kind of manage the financial positions over time, consistency and support from a lot of PDE supports from us in part, but also from PDE in a number of other ways and guidance from them. And so collectively, it takes a lot of time to put some pieces into place so that a leader like Superintendent Coleman and CRO Dr. Hines can come in and really start to really amplify and speed up what I would say is a epic or a moment of rebuilding. I'm very, very optimistic and very supportive of kind of what I'm seeing right now, and it's feeling very positive. And I think we see it, we hear about it in the number of people who are sticking around, the number of people who are joining the team, and the difference in conversations that we are having are not about keeping the train on the tracks, but really how do we speed things up? How do we build capacity? How do we make people better and build process and really kind of scale? And that is a whole new set of conversations that I'm very happy to be having with the Sto-Rox team. So,
thank you. Appreciate your perspective. Marie, if I could just put you on the spot for a minute, from the teacher point of view, do you think there's an impact, whether it's positive, negative, or no impact on having that label financial recovery among the teaching staff?
Teachers, I'm gonna go with what Ms. Coleman said. It's a negative connotation. You don't want to have that label that basically you can't run the place, or we can't manage the place, or we can't teach without having the state hovering over us. We've been here a few times years ago. When I first began in the district, the state was in also. No, teachers in general don't like that feeling. We hope that we can get out of this recovery soon, and hopefully stay out of recovery.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. So getting out, realistically, this could be year one of a 3-year review. I've heard that from my supervisors at PD. There's no promises, there's no guarantee, but it is looking like. As we've talked about in the past, and even as the amended Financial Recovery Plan 2025 was being put together and various iterations were shared publicly, one of the things that I hope I was very clear about, the 5-year projections, that's the toughest hurdle to get over. You know, the initial goal is for the district to live within its means, right? Just like our own individual households, we don't want to spend more money than we take in. And hopefully there's even a little bit left over for some things that we enjoy, we like, but we don't have to have. And then certainly some semblance of a savings account. And so that goal should be the same for the district. And I remember when I first started here, Stephen and Hannah telling me in my weekly meetings with them that, you know, the district is, these are my words, but the way I interpreted what they were telling me through the data, the district is not living within its means. The district is spending more annually than it is taking in. And it's hard to see that because of the COVID money that came in here. So it would be like hitting the lottery, right? The district got money beyond what was budgeted. There was extra money there. And I remember at the time when that money came through, again, I was a superintendent at the time, the intermediate unit especially was very clear to superintendents and business managers and said, do not embed these dollars in your daily operations. Really, the suggestion was look at capital repairs, things that you've been putting off because you haven't had the extra money. That would be the best use of these things, because when they dry up, And I remember ERA funds way before that as a federal programs coordinator. It was the same thing. Districts were encouraged. This is extra money. You know, you have to be really mindful, because if you embed this in your foundation, when it's gone, you're going to have a hole in your foundation. So those are just some things to think about. And I remember just even certain individuals who are no longer with the district having conversations, and they would, well, there's millions. What are you talking about? Well, mindful of the May 2024 capital improvement plan, over 7 million in repairs at that time. That was the cost in 2024 needed for this junior senior high school. When you take that chunk out, that doesn't leave a whole lot left for emergencies. And so I just wanted to think about that. And as we move into maybe more of a financial conversation, thinking about those 5-year projections, are we able to meet that? Because if we can, I think that definitely the district will qualify in the near future for exit, and then moving on to monitoring for 5 years. So that would be my hope. That's a shared goal, I believe, from our team here and all stakeholders within the district. Go ahead, Danny. Did you want to say something?
Yeah. Hi. Sorry I joined late. I think I'm having a little bit of a hard time based on like what you just said about the money that we had, that we're not bringing in enough money, but we're spending more. I think I'm having a hard time reconciling how this year it might be possible that we are net positive and that we'll have a positive 5-year projection. Because I've been on the board for almost a year now, and I think I'm struggling to see like where we made amendments to make that possible right now, given that we just got a list of bills that we didn't know we were going to get. So I think I'm struggling to understand how we can feel positive about this year, given the information that we have about surprise bills and your comment about that we were not taking in enough revenue, I guess, for our expenses.
Okay, so I'll start that conversation, and Stephen, you're watching our analytics closely. If you would jump in, and then Scott as well. So one of the requirements is a financial recovery is the business office has to complete cash flow statements. And so the Department of Ed will send to Scott specifically a document that is populated with information about anticipated money that will be coming in through the state portal. And so that information then gets updated locally with bills that are going out and so forth. And there are different tabs in that document that project out to the end of June, so the end of the fiscal year. And it looks like that the district will be positive. One of the things, I'm sure Scott will smile when I say this, my reminder here is $1. You need $1 to technically have a surplus. And so that is the goal. So it looks like this year, now you have to think about some of the changes that have been made. And it's kind of a strange year because we know we had that extended budget impasse in Harrisburg. So some of the federal dollars we thought were not going to come in. And so therefore, Mrs. Coleman did not recommend to the board that certain contracted services, and I backed her 1,000% on that, that they be renewed because we just didn't know. And had they been renewed and those title dollars not have been reinstated, that would have been a negative, what was about $300,000 for the district. Mm-hmm. So there's different things that have been happening here. The business office model has changed. And so looking through the cash flow sheets to see whether or not there's a positive or negative is something that happens quite regularly. Steve, do you want to weigh in, and then Scott?
Yeah, and I apologize for not having the financial model right in front of me to be able to speak to specifics here, but things that have been true over the past year is that for the last couple of fiscal years, the district has been holding on and building an ending fund balance, and that in some ways has also been, I would say, a distorting element of the storyline, for example. So as this case as the funds from ESSER and the empowerment grants have really kind of supplemented revenues from the state and local revenues, there have been changes in expenditures on the district level that are really kind of playing out, I think, now and right now. And it's only now that we are finishing audits for prior years and developing budgets for future years that we're starting to get a clear picture of, so what is actually being spent and planned for and executed upon from the budget year, from budget year to budget year. And that's one of the things that's really, I think, coming to bear, and something that we're like very closely observing and hoping to get clarity on, especially as this next 26-27 budget gets finalized and reviewed and approved or by the board.
Thank you, Stephen. And before, Scott, you weigh in, let me just remind as well, one of our past meetings, we talked about the district authorizing $130,000 in expenditures to go toward the solicitor costs for reinstating delinquent tax collection efforts. So several years ago, the district obviously was struggling, assigned financial recovery. And in that moment in time, the district had asked the solicitor to slow up on pursuing delinquent tax collections because there are costs to do lien letters, litigation, and so forth. So that is new information too that we're going to follow up on and find out more about, but hopefully that is going to contribute to a surplus as well. Scott, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to first start off with saying again, working with Stephen and Hannah and everything on this, and like starting to look at developing next year's budget, but also prior to that, like looking at this year's current budget and cleaning up, and kind of to go along with what everybody said and answer Danny's question. The other good thing is that, well, I don't want to talk bad about people that were here prior to us. The budget wasn't the cleanest thing. As you can see, like a couple of the board meetings, we are asking for authorization to move funds around from unused lines of accounting to ones that are being used currently or stuff like that. So with that being said, we're starting to just be able to clean it up a little bit. And then again, the big thing, the federal dollars in the beginning, not knowing what they were coming in, there was a little bit of hesitation on spending some stuff. So that kind of helped out. Moving on to
Scott, one second, please. Sonia wants to add a remark, please.
Yep.
Yeah, and to what Scott is saying, the other thing that we shifted to, even in departments and how they're doing their budgets, are vastly different in terms of, I had them track exactly what you spent last year to this year, because we can't build a sustainable budget without exact numbers. Even working with principals, getting them to understand what does the budget look like and how do you organize your spending. So a lot of time is going into ensuring all departments understand their spending and their budget. And is it just, let's run to now we have a business office, or let's run to prior company and let me just purchase. It's not done like that anymore. And just ensuring that we're truly being fiscally accountable and responsible.
Hey, Scott, do you want to go ahead? Go ahead, Dr. Hunter-Rue.
Yes, I think I totally understand all the changes that we've made to improve the budget, how we're managing our funds. I think I'm struggling with this year being possible. Like, have all the changes been made enough this year for this to be year one? I feel like when I came in, last year was supposed to be the year we were in year one. And then I'm hearing that this year is the year that we're going to be in year one. And so I think I'm trying to temper my expectations as far as like, have we done enough this year for this year to actually be year one? Or is that just a hope that it's going to be year one and we don't quite have enough information? I guess I'm trying to understand my expectations, because I understand a lot of things have changed, but have they changed vastly enough that now we're all in a good spot? Or is it going to take us another year to actually see the gains of all the work that has been done this year and last year? Like, I know a lot of work is being done, but um, I think I'm based on what I see in the meetings and things we need approved and the surprise payments that are coming. I'm weary um, that we've done enough to see the gains so soon, if that makes sense. So I I'm not I think we're on the right track, but I think I don't understand enough if we've made enough progress so far to see the win so soon, if that's making sense.
That makes perfect sense to me. And let me just say this. So for 24-25, the district did accept $2 million in empowerment funds. So separate from that, the district put into the capital reserve fund, or Fund 33, an amount equal to that. So the district did not embed that, did not use that for day-to-day operations. Now, so that was very, very positive for 24-25. 25-26, this is the first year in recent years where the district is not accepting, does not need, is not requesting a $2 million empowerment fund injection. So that is what makes me feel, and the conversations I've had with my supervisors, that this year could, to be determined, as we've all pointed out, could realistically be year one of the 3 needed for the consecutive evidence, of improvement, a surplus, and then beyond that, the 5-year projections. Does that make better sense? So the district did better in 24-25, but it cannot be disregarded that $2 million extra dollars, not budgeted, were injected by the Department of Education. This year, that is not applicable 25-26.
Okay, I think I understand that a bit better. Thank you, Nancy.
Okay, absolutely. So, Scott, if you want to pick up the conversation, there are some notes included in the agenda, just talking points for you if you would like, and I can chime in others as well as you are comfortable.
Yep. So again, moving forward, talking about 26-27 budget development, we're in the stages of that. And if you were at the previous board in February, we had talked about a very preliminary looking at moving forward. And then we're putting together the budget presentation for the board, which will happen tomorrow night. But currently, we're approximately just under $740,000 shortfall, meaning that what we're projecting for revenue is about $740,000 less than what we are projecting or estimating for our expenditures next year, based on what we spent last year previous, and looking at different financial models. But the one good thing to note, or not good thing, but the one big thing to note on here is we're not including our teacher salary increase yet, because we're the current negotiation contract ends the end of this school year, so the negotiations are ongoing now for that. And then healthcare premium increase for all employees. We just recently got, within the last few weeks, ASHIC put out that it's now 8.3 for the healthcare, 3% for the dental. There's no change in vision, and the deductibles are the same. But looking at that PFM, Stephen and them ran some analysis. That's roughly about another $250,000 across the board. So as it stands, we're probably at about $1 million shortfall. And then saying, what does that mean is, Nancy spoke earlier about fund balance and bringing over that. And one of the big things about any district, especially in financial recovery, is you don't want to use your fund balance, if you have positive fund balance, to shore up your budget and even your budget for your next year. And just in the sense of, as she said, PD and AIU was saying that you do not want to use that $2 million in your daily operations, because you'll rely on that. And then as inflation happens and things move on and things grow, you're going to rely on that, and you're not going to have that. So to be very financial conscious and looking at everything and to get this right, we don't want to use our undesignated fund balance for balancing our budget, because if we use it this year, next year we're going to have to make up for what we used this year, plus whatever inflation happens next year and anything on that thing. So we're working really closely with, again, all the division head, department heads, the principals, to start looking at the budget. What we'll start looking at is, you know, we have to make sure that that what we're bringing in and what we know will come in for revenue will match what our expenditures. And some of the things that I'll point out tomorrow on the presentation, let you guys know, is one of the things with state revenue right now, we're basing it on level that I'm estimating our state fund is the same as what it was last year, because I don't want to overestimate what that has and we not get it and then hurt the district. You can go out and look at, the governor did propose his budget, but if anybody was around last year, he proposed the budget early and there was a budget impasse for a while. So again, nothing's in that. As well as federal, we kind of left that as level funding because there's a lot of uncertainty with federal funding and everything that's going on that. And then you go into your other source of revenue is your local. So right now, talking options on the table would be no increase on local taxes up through the Acts 1 index, where the board had already approved the motion that said we will not go over or not ask to the state to give us an exception to go over that. But at the Act in 1 index is 5.5%. And then again, to know that what we recommend to the school board of directors to vote on prior to the end of the school year, June 30th, Dr. Hines will have to recommend and approve and endorse if the tax levy is less than the Acts 1. So, and that ties in again, as she talked about earlier, the 5-year projections to be positive as part of the exit consideration. Some of the considerations specific to the millage is the market value versus personal income ratio. So there's a lot of stuff that we get and we look through the PDE website to get information. Before I go on anything, see if there's any questions, comments, or anybody want to jump in on anything.
Scott, I'm going to jump in as Martha scrolls down just to see. So these 3 items that are going to be listed as 1, 2, and 3, these are major considerations for the board. Mm-hmm. And the recommendation, business manager, superintendent, recovery officer, we're going to try to advise the board the best we can. But Martha, as you scroll down, we cannot lose sight of the poverty that is within this district. It is real. We understand that, and it's documented. If you look here at Sto-Rox, these are listed from districts that have the least amount of wealth locally, and you can see it's a partial list. It certainly does not represent 500 districts across the Commonwealth, but local ones that we are all familiar with. It's a very high poverty rate for Sto-Rox. In fact, it's 17th in Pennsylvania. And so you see the current millage rate. You can see what that brings in terms of revenue. And so I want you to kind of think about that. Scott, maybe you want to talk about, the options before the board that will be before the board, what this team will eventually recommend to the board, and how that will impact individual households. Again, everybody being very, very mindful that this is a community with high poverty.
Correct. And again, so looking at, we will present and look at for the recommendations as we go and move forward is, again, as I said before, the max option would be the Act 1 index, which is 5.5%. Nope, stay where you're at, please. Sorry, where the highlighted is. So that where the Act 1 index and the highlighted there in the middle that talks about 1.75 mils. And again, understanding as a taxpayer myself and a child in school, I have a 14-year-old in 8th grade. I mean, I understand, as the difficulty of these decisions that are made through the recommendations of the business office, the superintendent, the recovery officer going to the board, and then the board have to make the final decision on this. But trying to arm the community and the board and everybody with the most information so they can see it. Again, as I said, we were about $740,000 a shortfall currently with projections. And if we had raised it to the max, which is the option right now, that would generate right around $750,000. So that again doesn't include what we're projecting for healthcare and then what we're going to look at for the new negotiations with the teacher contract. And if you look in that third line down there at the bottom where it says annual household impact. So again, if we did recommend and the board approved the max option, the 1.75 mils Act 1 index, you're looking at, that's your yearly impact per household. So on a $50,000 household, it's $87.41, which is just over $7 a month on that. And then all the way down to the 150, which is $262. So yes, go ahead, Danny.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify. That's the amount that would be in addition to what they already pay, or that is the amount total.
That is the
amount.
impact of 1 mil. That's the additional amount on what the current taxes are. The additional.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Let me interrupt for a minute if I could. Martha, can you scroll back up to the reference to millage? Down a little bit, please.
I think it's number 2.
Yeah, when you think about the school district millage, the rate, 31.787. If you own $100,000 house, you are paying $3,178. $3,178 to the district for the school tax only. So that's how the millage works. Sometimes you'll see mill represented as MIL or MILL. So that, as Scott just pointed out, is additional if the district's going to have to raise taxes, it looks like, and that amount of the max that's the equivalent that would be added into that if you had $100,000 house and the other scenarios he provided as well. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, and I wonder if you could put the total amount sort of like for a layperson who doesn't understand millage, seeing the total amount of what your taxes is might be helpful. Although
Scott,
I understand the purpose of the showing the increase.
Yeah, I can work with Stephen and Hannah tomorrow to we'll update the slide that we have for tomorrow night, and we can just use what the current per those three, the 50, 100, and 150,000, what the current rate is at the current millage. So yeah, we can do that. So, all right.
Okay. Do you want to look at enrollment?
Yep. Do we want to go down a little bit further?
So that's another challenge. We mark it as number 3 on the agenda.
All right. So now looking at here, this chart here again, and we had talked about this on the first presentation, and try to put it out again for the layperson, somebody to know. Enrollment drives pretty much everything within school district for funding and for also revenue that comes in and school, and it also for our charter school tuition. So if you look at
It's okay.
right now, if we look at our current, this is showing post author data shared monthly. This is showing what our
It's around
primary center, our upper elementary, and our high school, and then total K through 12 enrollment is from the beginning of the year, the August to October, or through October, or I'm sorry, November, when the impasse ended, and then going into February. As you can see, we've stayed pretty consistent within there, like dropping up and down from 934 to currently 937. A lot of that, and then if you look at the line below that, that is our K through 12 virtual Vikings. That's our local online option. So there's approximately another 73 students there. But if you look at the K through 12, which is the cyber charter, currently 114 students, 67.5 of them in regular ed. Can you scroll just a little bit, Martha?
Sorry about that.
That's good. Thank you. 67.5 in regular ed and 32.5 in IEP. And the reason that those numbers are important for cyber charter and brick and mortar, because every year school districts have to submit to PDE a form called PDE 363. And that is how, based on your previous year's expenditures and a couple other formulas, that's how based on what tuition rate we pay to our charter schools. And it's broken down into cyber charter school and brick and mortar. And then within each of those, we pay for regular education students. And then also any students that are on IEP, that is another rate that we pay. So enrollment drives a lot of that. And I know there's many, just on the financial side, it's a huge thing because of how much, and you'll see in our budget presentation, how much our anticipated charter school tuition is. I don't have the slides up in front of me, but I believe right now we're estimating about 13 million for next year.
Yeah, Scott, it's listed on the agenda. If Martha scrolls down a little bit more,
Okay.
you have your 363 entries. There you go.
There you go. Okay. So right there, currently, if you look at that, that's the tuition we pay per student per year. So if they go to brick and mortar, it's $14,000 for regular student and $38,000, just almost under $39,000 for an IEP student. And then cyber is a little bit less. And that's due to the reform that they just did, the Act 47 and everything the state did to help out a little bit that. But again, approximately 13 million with what our enrollment numbers are for preliminary budget next year. So we just kind of like to tie those numbers in because, and I'll say this is me saying this on the business side, as seeing this as coming from a not educational background, is that how important all the other parts are to finance, of like our safety, our security, Maria talking about wanting to get out of financial recovery, and Dr. Or Ms. Coleman talking about wanting to get out of it and not having that stigma and the negativity of the community. We don't know how many of parents believe and don't send their schools to our district because they believe financial recovery being a horrible thing, or some other factor that's driven that. So it makes you realize, looking at those numbers, bringing students back from charter school to the school would obviously help and lessen the burden on the tuition that we pay. And then the last thing I'll cover, if there's no questions on the tuition or the charter schools. Go ahead, Steve.
Scott, can I just highlight that
Yep.
this current year's state funding bill that passed in November brought some significant changes to the charter school special education funding rates that benefited Sto-Rox tremendously. I can get that exact number to but it was several hundreds of dollars in the positive that the district did not have to pay out to cyber charters that previously had to. So there's also some big policy changes that have been going on at the state level that really significantly benefited Sto-Rox this year, to really kind of connect it back to the earlier conversation around some of the improvements that are happening to bolster the district's financial position.
Yep. And I'll say just an easy example. If you look at the middle of the page right now where it talks about the tuition rates, when we first did the PDE before the budget passed and they updated, and we had to redo the form where it broke it out in 4. It wasn't broken out that way. It was broken out. Regular tuition was both the same. So it was both around 14,000-ish. And then the brick and mortar, the cyber, was very close to what the brick and mortar IEP was. So if you look at that, it's about a $5,000 saving, or sorry, about a $13,000 savings between the tuition per person for cyber and brick and mortar now for an IEP, and just over $1,100 for that. So again, tying back to what Danny asked earlier, that's one of the things that also helped, because we originally had to budget for tuition based on the higher rates, and then when the state did their revamp, that brought some of the what we budgeted to pay out. We're not going to pay out as much come to the end of the year.
Very good point, Stephen and Scott. Thank you for referencing those. And if we look at number 4, some of the larger challenges that the district has, repeatedly, continuously referencing the capital improvement needs at the junior, senior high school. And Mrs. Cohen, I'm going to ask if you just weigh in here. I cannot remember the year, but I know that when the emergency plumbing repairs presented themselves, and 2 flexible instruction days were invoked because there weren't sufficient toilets here in the building. And so the water had to be shut off, immediate repairs to ensure the district could start up after winter break on time. How old, one of the people who came in said that this information had been known for quite a while.
2018.
What was it?
2018.
So 2018. So, the use of Band-Aid approaches to fix larger repairs, while in the moment, you do what you have to do, you pay for what you can afford, there's a cumulative effect and it's negative here with these capital repairs. Thinking about if the district does not try to tackle the bulk of these 7.5 or more $1 million repairs, when the district may be in a better position, and right now it is a golden position because of the COVID money that still remains in the coffers here, what will that number look like? Because Band-Aiding isn't a long-term fix. So I just want to bring that to your attention. So to recap, the board is going to have to make a decision. It's a tough decision. It looks like there absolutely will be recommended a tax increase. It's just a matter of how much now at this point. Everybody remains mindful that the district, the community is a high poverty community. We've looked at the comparisons. It's one of the poorest in the Commonwealth. We know that. That's documented facts. We also know that enrollment presents a challenge. We know that the cyber charter programs, brick and mortar charter programs are taking not only, if you will, tuition, but also there is the factor of transportation for students to travel to and from if it's a brick and mortar school. So it's a little bit different than just saying it's a tuition issue. And then the other piece to that, the capital improvements and so forth. So I think everybody agrees, and Scott, you've said it most recently here, if the district can restore, improve its reputation, and that could be enough to help turn the tide on this declining enrollment issue that the district's had. And so far this year, it looks like the enrollment's been pretty steady. So that is looking very helpful as well. Lots of work to be done, but certainly the district is, I think the trajectory is pointing up at this point. Is anybody that would like to make any other comments at this time? I do see that Tyra joined us. Tyra, do you want to turn your camera on and say hello to the group? Okay, I guess we will catch her next time. Our next meeting is going to be facilitated Wednesday, April 29th at 4:00 p.m. And for that particular meeting, we're expecting that our 2 elementary principals will give us an update on how the year has gone thus far and anything new and exciting they're looking forward to for perhaps next year. And then May 27th, the junior senior high school will be represented. Mrs. Coleman will give a recap, year in review. We hope June 24th, and then myself, just specific to financial recovery, where we're looking at, and hopefully we'll have more information, more specific information to share. Any final comments before we close out? Okay.
Tyra popped up.
Thank
I
you,
think she's
everybody.
ready to say hi. I think Tyra popped up ready to say hi.
Go ahead, Tyra. Do you want to try it?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Hello?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, sorry, I was dropping something off at the same time, so I apologize. But yes, hello, thank you. Thanks for having me be a part of this team. I'm excited to learn more and to offer, any type of opinions, any things that I may have, and just getting to learn and to see where we are as far as the school as a whole.
Okay, thank you, Tyra, and welcome. All right, we are going to go ahead and close out, and I will see everybody Wednesday, April 29th at 4:00. Feel free to call or email in between if there's anything that I can help with. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you guys. Goodbye.